here today with Paul Harnedy, the Executive Vice President of Cedar Court Capital Partners. Paul, how are you? Thank you very much for being with us today.
Very well, Christina. Thank you very much.
So, Paul, would love to get your view on how the macroeconomic landscape has been impacting you for the past few months, if not year, and how particularly inflation and energy rates and labour shortage has had an impact into your pricing strategy, into your business mix. What are you seeing?
Yeah, well, I think that it's been an interesting and turbulent time, right? We've got rising prices across the board, from food to energy being the big ones that are well publicised. I think, fortunately, if we're talking about it from two angles, the markets and the demand have been really, really strong. So naturally, pricing has followed suit. So pricing, an average rate across all the markets in which we operate, which are across Europe and indeed the US, have remained strong and grown, which is helpful in offsetting those cost increases. Does it offset them 100%? It probably neutralises them, but the businesses are not becoming any more profitable because of the growth in rate. The growth in rate is very welcome, and it, as we say, is as a result of the demand in the market, and long may that demand continue. We've obviously seen, as we know, as we've come out of the pandemic, huge demand for leisure travel. Corporate travel has most definitely returned, and has returned strong. The gap in the market is still the bigger groups. So that's group travel and meetings and events, which, has formed a large part of our business historically. So it's when will that come back? Will that come back to the same levels as 19 and before? And whether that will continue to drive price? On the reverse of that, you've got all the inflationary costs. So, of course, you've got costs going up across the board, mainly all driven by the utility impact. So the utility impact is having an impact on our laundry, our linen, our food supply chain. So we've seen anything upwards of 25% increase in laundry rates. Of course, utilities has gone up, triple digit in some cases. In a number of the European markets, you can't actually contract your utilities, so you go on a day-by-day pricing, which is a bit like going to the casino. You don't know what your bill's going to be at the end of the month because you don't know what your 31 different days of pricing has been in utilities. So, it's a real challenge, and we are in a fortunate position that rates and demand are still allowing us to offset those costs. At some point, the gap will narrow, and I fear that some businesses will start to see profit erosion.
I think on that note, what are the main KPIs that you focus on right now, and how have those changed?
I think, as always, rooms is the biggest driver of profitability within the hotel business. So RevPAR, ADR and occupancy remain the first three things you look at whenever you're reviewing a P&L or a KPI schedule. But more and more, particularly for our style of business, we're looking at TrevPAR, where you've got businesses that are multifaceted, so they've got spas, golf, leisure, good quality food and beverage outlets. It's important to understand the whole spend. So TrevPAR is becoming very, very important for us. We've always looked at it. It's not new, but I think it's become more and more pertinent, particularly to our businesses that we operate. We've got a large golf resort that, from a RevPAR perspective, may not be leading the way, but because of the way we approach all of the other ancillary spends and all the other services, from a TrevPAR perspective, it's absolutely head and shoulders above its competitor set. So TrevPAR is coming to the fore as being probably the second biggest measurement after RevPAR from a revenue perspective. I think, given the guest has more choice, given that they are paying more for the services naturally with the increases in the demand, that customer data is more important than it was before. it was vitally important before, but in terms of building loyalty, in terms of delivering to that guest expectation, things like the scores that you get through, things like Revenate or Review Pro are really, really useful. One, because they tell you how you're doing and what your customer thinks, but they also tell you how you're doing against your competitor set. And it's always important to stay ahead of what your competitors are doing from a guest perspective. And then naturally, on the basis of what I've just said about cost base, you've obviously got things like cost per kilowatt hour, and so there's more and more utility or cost KPIs that are in laser focus now, purely because we've seen those cost rises.
Brilliant. And if you were to focus on some of the technologies that help you grow your business, where's that focus going?
I think, look, technology plays a huge part across the board in our businesses. We're seeing it more and more so in terms of the control of usage, in terms of energy and utilities. But if I come back to a point I made earlier about RevPAR still being the single biggest measure in the business because rooms delivers the maximum profitability within the P&L of a hospitality business, then I'd have to say our revenue management systems continue to be the number one system.
That's brilliant. Just before we go, Paul, tell us, what do you think Hospitality Marketplace is a valuable event for the hoteliers that's sitting there watching it?
I think what I find extremely valuable is sharing views, understanding how other experienced and knowledgeable people within the industry are seeing things. You know, I think we are better collectively. Of course, we're all competitors in this world, right? Be it supply chain or the actual hospitality businesses, but we can still continue to learn from each other. So hearing those insights, hearing how other people are measuring and focusing on their business is really, really helpful.
Thank you ever so much, Paul.
No problem.